This is Scotty B, and you're watching the Dino Network.
Jason Lee Tipton here on the Dino Network with longtime DSN radio colleague and rock radio veteran Maxx Hammer to discuss the recent loss of Lemmy Kilmister of the hard rock group Motörhead. Max, share with us your thoughts and memories on Lemmy.
Well, when you mention Motörhead, the first thing I'm going to think of is Wild Bill and Booby at Z-Rock in the early days. They recognized my love for Motörhead, and I've seen them live as a fan a million times. And so they worked to get Lemmy to come up at the station, and they had Lemmy stay at the hotel next to the radio stations, and there's a hotel right next to that, and we put Lemmy up in there. And then after my show ended, they had me hang out in the hotel room with Lemmy. He was in there with a bathrobe on and just doing his regular stuff, smoking and had a drink and watching TV. And he started talking to me about, World War I aces and things of that nature, about World War I and, fighter planes and things he was interested in. So I just kind of sat there in the hotel room with him and listened to it. And then I ended up interviewing him on the air, and that was a great interview. And then we went, it was like a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, then they were playing in Dallas that night on a Saturday after the interview. So we went to the show, and Motörhead has a song called The Hammer, and before each song, Lemmy is dedicating each song to a certain person, and before they played The Hammer, he said, "This one's dedicated to Mad Max," and that's like one of the great moments of my life when Lemmy dedicated a song to me.
That is quite something, Max.
They brought a photographer, and he took a bunch of pictures, and had my Everlast sweatshirt on, and it's illustrated, actually, this moment on the air with Motörhead during the interview. It's illustrated in the Motörhead comic book, one or two frames of the comic book. But anyway, they took pictures, and one picture I just lifted my shirt up and was showing one side of my breast, and Wild Bill's checking it out, kind of go, "Get your shirt back on." And, Lemmy and all the guys are looking at me. That we had, can't remember who was up there. They had two guitar players, Phil Campbell and Wurzel were up there with Lemmy, and I think the other guys were like in the studio or in the production room with Killer Kilpatrick cutting liners. But anyway, during that time, just a little behind the scenes info, Killer Kilpatrick and a few other Z-Rockers are in the prod room with Motörhead cutting liners. Part of the band's in the studio with me. The other part, there's another part in, I think Filthy Phil, the drummer, was in the production room, was another member. And they were drinking, and by the time my show ended and I was off the air and everything had settled down, and that bombed beyond comparison on the air, one of the most unbelievable air checks in the history of audio. By the way, to see that picture, or any of the pictures from the Z-Rock days with Motörhead, and that illustration from the Motörhead comic book, go to the KDKT website or the KDKT Facebook page, and you can check it out.
And your final thoughts on the life of Lemmy?
Probably, you could just coin him as the grandfather or godfather of heavy metal, because he was there right from the beginning. I mean, he was right there with Hawkwind, and I mean, if you look at the style of Larry Wallace of the Pink Fairies, and Lemmy just took it a step further. The Pink Fairies were heavy, and so was Hawkwind, but Lemmy took it to the next level of heaviness and loudness. I mean, I had never heard a live band as loud as Motörhead. It was just so loud, and it was one of the most unforgettable gigs of all time. I think Wasp opened up, or Y&T, and it was just an unbelievable night. But Motörhead headlined, and they blew the whole stadium apart.
Thanks, Mad Max.
All right, thanks, Jay.
I'm Jason Lee Tipton, the Tiptonizer for the Dino Network.